Are you moving and you've got kids? You have to watch this video. We're going to talk about 3 really important strategies to talk to your kids about when moving, as well as 3 important things and strategies that you as the parent need to uncover, be aware of, and talk about. And we got a special guest here. So stick around and we're going to talk about this right after this. Hey everybody, my name's Chamberlain, and today we are talking about moving with kids. You know, there are so many families that move, and our team has helped so many families move over the years, and I don't know why we haven't talked about this earlier, but all I know is moving with kids can be stressful. It can be pretty intense. And so what I did is I went out to actually one of our past clients who is a counselor and art therapist. And we've actually had her on the phone being like, help us. And she's amazing. So I want to introduce Donna. Welcome.
Thank you.
Donna runs bloomarttherapy.com, which is a local art therapy group. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So I do art therapy and counseling for kids, teens, and families.
I love it.
Yeah.
So good. And honestly, if you need that, Donna is amazing. So you need to reach out to her. But today we're talking about moving with kids, right? Mm-hmm. And you've moved. Actually, your kids probably were pretty young when you moved.
They were. And it was kind of funny because when you reached out to me to ask me to come and join you here, I was like, it's weird that he's asking me that because I moved almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't moved in 10 years.
And you're early teen kids. So
yeah. And so they were, I think we had a 1-year-old and a toddler and a kindergartner at the time.
The best part is they didn't have opinions then.
Not really. No, I know. That was actually kind of easy. But yeah, so when you reached out, I was like, why is he? It's weird. It's been 10 years. Why is he asking me this?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wait.
I'm an art therapist.
Wait, I work with kids. He's asking me from that perspective, right?
Oh, right. I can do that.
Right.
I can do that.
Yeah.
So I guess to jump right in, I mean, we've had a lot of questions and conversations with kids, or families, I should say. And some of those questions have come up, and I want to work through those because I know that other people have those questions who are planning moves. See, maybe you've bought a house and you're waiting to move, or it's something that you're kind of, thinking of doing in the future. And so either way, these are really valuable tips that we're going to go through and some questions that we've come up with that are really going to help you. And so the first one that I want to jump into is, what is the worst age for kids to move? Is there a bad age, or I don't know. What do you think?
It's tough because I think it really, I don't think there is an age. I don't think anybody can really say there's, there probably are people who throw around and say the teen years are the worst. And definitely as a parent, when we've talked about moving, we've always said there's this window. And if we don't move in this window, then we're not going anywhere, right?
It's another 10 years, solid 10 years.
We're
we got to wait.
Yeah, we're stuck in Calgary. We're not going anywhere. But I think it really depends on your specific kids, because there are kids that can just take a move in stride, and it's a lot about their personality and their temperament and their resiliency. And then there's some kids, no matter what age, it's going to be a struggle for them. I even think back to when I guess I'm also a moving expert in some ways. I was thinking because I moved cities as a child.
Oh wow.
I moved house as an adult. I moved cities as an adult.
Yeah.
I moved countries as a teenager.
Oh, crazy.
So I've kind of done moves in my life at all these different points.
And probably some critical moments of life too, right?
Absolutely. And so my brother and I were both teenagers when we moved to Canada.
Wow.
And one of us, me, dealt with it better. Than the other.
So if you're her brother and you're watching, hopefully you're doing okay.
Yeah. So and I think it just was kind of temperament and age and just ability to take some of those changes in stride.
Yeah.
So no, but then definitely we just talked about my own kids and how moving when they were, babies and toddlers was an easier thing to do because there weren't a lot of, I guess, kind of obstacles and things that would create challenges for them.
Yeah.
There was only one who was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And so I think actually it's funny because we're still in the same house, right?
Yeah.
And the kindergartner didn't get to see the house when we went and toured. And so, whereas the other two did because they were little. And so we gave him the offer that he could pick his room.
That's a thing. Like,
it's a big deal.
I know when we just moved, and it was like this battle of who gets to choose what room, and
for sure,
yeah.
because they both have opinions.
They do now.
They do now.
Yeah.
So it was really easy to just give the kindergartner, you just have whatever room you want. The other two didn't protest. Yeah. And now it's 10 years later, but now there's some objections because now they're like, why does he have the best room? Well, because he wasn't with us when we toured the house.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what about kids moving around a lot? So if the age isn't as important, it's more of the state or of how the kid copes with things.
Yeah.
What about kids that end up getting moved around a lot? Like, is that okay to do, or is that very similar in terms of who they are versus the actual moving part?
I think there are definitely other factors that come into play, right? I think if we kind of look at the circumstances of why kids move a lot.
Yeah.
So when we look at like military families, right? Like those kids would move a lot, and there'd be other factors at play for sure. When I was working in the school system, there were definitely kids who moved a lot. Mm-hmm. And we saw that they had struggles because they just didn't have a lot of roots that they, and when I say roots, I mean like relationships that they've built over time with other kids and with school staff and adults. And so just lots of disruption in their lives. But the circumstance of those kids moving a lot was also because they were often, renters or low-income housing. Yeah. And so it's not necessarily the move per se. Because again, I think kids could move a lot, but if they have the right resiliency skills, they can withstand those things.
Yeah. So maybe that kind of leads into an alternate question. How do you build resiliency in a kid? Like, how do you do that? Is it putting them into situations that are harder and unknown? Like, you just don't want to start throwing kids into that too often.
Totally. A little bit. Like, and I mean, it's funny because I sometimes think that moving is a wonderful opportunity for kids to build resilience. Yeah. Right? It's not like I'm saying like everybody should move all the time. Yeah. It could be good for you. But.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys want to, like we're not opposed. But.
For sure. But I sometimes look at kids who have never, like I have, friends who have never, they've lived in the same city, sometimes the same neighborhood that they were born and raised in, and they've just never had to move. And I think sometimes it's a missed opportunity because
I agree.
Yeah. Like I think there's like moving is such a great opportunity to build resilience because it's stressful. Yeah. There's so much unpredictability and uncertainty that comes with it. Yeah. And I think if kids at a younger age get to experience that and get to see their parents, how their parents handle those things, that's going to set them up for success later in life, right?
It's really true. Well, and I think with that too, I mean, it's funny that we're talking about this because we want kids to be confident, right? Like, and sometimes do you see confidence and resiliency? I'm saying it wrong. Resiliency. Yeah. Could open my mouth for that one. The resiliency. Is there confidence and resiliency? Is that something that coexists together?
Absolutely. Because I think resiliency comes a lot from kids not only having confidence in themselves, but them also having parents that have confidence in them. Because lots of times...
more confidence in them?
In the kid, right?
Or what about the parent being confident themselves?
That too, right? Okay. Like it's all tied together. But I think sometimes when kids deal with difficult things, right? And I talk to them and I say like, that sounds really, really challenging, but you've done tough things before. Like, is this the thing that you think that you can handle? Very often kids will say, yeah, I believe I can handle this, but I'm not sure that my mom believes I can.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because parents...
That like breaks my heart a little bit.
But it doesn't come from a bad place of parenting though, right? It comes from... Yeah. When I work with kids around anxiety and stuff, it's a lot of... parents want to protect their kids. Yeah. And so, which is a natural instinct,
Yeah.
and it's what we're supposed to do for survival of our species. But sometimes when we don't allow kids to feel
A struggle.
or to feel hurt or to feel or to have any of those challenges, what it tells the kid is that my mom doesn't believe I can do it, right? Or my parents don't believe I can do it.
Take it off of my shoulders and do it for me or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's interesting, like even little things. I mean, we ever since we could and made the decision, we made the decision that our girls are going to make their own lunches. Mm-hmm. Just because, one, we don't want to, and two, it's something that it's consistent. They always got to figure that out.
For sure.
And right or wrong, but then I hear other parents, like through client appointments or just conversations of friends or whatever, and they're like, no, I made my kids lunches tonight and I did this. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know how to stop. I'm like, you just stop. Like there's no reason you have to do this. You just say today is the day and we're changing this, right?
Because I believe that you can make the right decision about what you should eat.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think parents do that a lot, right? We just kind of, we jump in and we don't. And so the big one that relates to moving is there is so much uncertainty around it because you don't know exactly how things are going to go. And kids who typically worry or are anxious are going to have more of a struggle with moving. And they're going to want to know exactly what's going to happen, right? These are the what if kids, we call them. Yeah. So what if the moving truck doesn't come on time?
Yeah.
What if my favorite toys get lost?
Yeah.
What if nobody at my new school likes me?
Yeah.
Right.
Or even just the house itself. What is that house going to look like?
What is it going to look like? Right. Yeah. And so sometimes what we tend to go towards the side of like, well, if I just tell my kid all the answers to those things, then they're going to like settle down and they're going to be fine.
But they don't.
And then they don't, right? Because what they learn from that messaging is that I need validation from an outside source. Like I need this person, this person, this person to tell me that it's going to be okay versus relying on myself.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be okay, right? Like I'm probably going to feel worried.
Yeah.
Not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring.
Yeah.
But I can handle it.
Yeah.
And my parents believe I can handle it.
Yeah. Well, and Rebecca and I talk a lot about this, like being uncomfortable in life and doing things that are uncomfortable and using that language around our kids too has been so interesting because like, I don't know, our younger one the other day said something about that person, like it was a baking show. She's watching this baking show right now. And she's like, that person is so good. He goes out of his comfort zone all the time and he doesn't do the chocolate all the time. I'm like, what did you just say?
You were like, yes.
But it's amazing how as a parent, if you're using that language and talking about being uncomfortable, because it's sometimes, I think as we age, it starts as a kid. And as we age, those kids who are not comfortable with discomfort, they want to grow into the cushy chair that they grow old in.
Totally.
Instead of figuring out and having the ability to figure it out, right?
Yeah. And just even like being okay with those uncomfortable feelings that come up in life and
having to sort through them.
Yeah. And they're not scary.
No.
Right? So feeling anxious or worried is a natural feeling. It's what we do. But if you think it's a bad thing, then you're more inclined to grow into an adult who now thinks or believes or comes to have an anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
I remember hearing in a training one time, they said that anxiety isn't necessarily the symptoms you experience. An anxiety disorder is your response to those symptoms, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people.
But it makes sense.
Totally. Like I came here today and I was definitely feeling anxious, right? Yeah. But my response isn't I didn't just stay home in bed today. I still came and I was able to sit through the discomfort. Yeah. And that's what makes me a functioning human being.
And a growing.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, actually I want maybe, and this is totally off topic and we're going to turn this into a 25-minute video very easily, but I'm talking about anxiousness because, and anxiety, I think, one thing when we were talking to you about stuff and our own kids, you said something to us that really resonated and just how there's almost too many words and too much language out there now that kids can grab onto. And it's like anxiety attacks and these things. And I would love for you to share that, because I think it was really, really valuable.
Yeah. And I think it's great that kids nowadays have some language they're so much more self-aware, right? Like they recognize what's happening in their bodies. And a lot of the work we do with kids is getting them to that place of being able to read what their bodies are doing in response to anxiety. But they're not necessarily assigning the label, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we went from a place where we never talked about mental health, especially in kids and teens, to now where we talk about it all the time. But sometimes the struggle is that kids and teens kind of grab onto these labels, right? Because a label gives them security, but it doesn't change their experience of those feelings.
And you can hide behind a label. I was looking behind me because I don't remember if I had the book in here. Okay. And I can't remember the book it's a yellow book, and I can put it in the comments or something. But it was so powerful because it talked about how introvert, extrovert, and you can hide behind an introverted or an extroverted label. Yeah. But just even having anxiety. Well, I have anxiety. Well, now I have a reason that I can hide behind something, and I'm not going to get better. I'm not going to try to figure it out. It's just what I am. It's my label. And now let's move on, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I think it's a lot about just teaching kids to recognize those feelings and that discomfort and a little bit of like, I work a lot on getting kids to accept those things about them, right? And not resisting it. Yeah. And anxiety and worry aren't necessarily things that you have to get rid of. Like it's part of who you are.
Actually good.
Right? Right? I do stuff with kids where they draw their worry or they draw their anxiety, and then we learn to be friends with it. We give it a name, and right? They make it out of clay sometimes, and it has a name, and then all of our work.
I want to come to your class.
Right? You should. It's amazing.
I don't get to draw enough anymore.
But then we taught, like, all of our work is about, this thing and how we start to predict when it shows up. Right?
Interesting.
So a kid who's worried and has a worry and whatever it looks like, they know that when moving day comes, that, right? And so that's some of the languaging that I teach parents to use, right? Is, okay, so tomorrow is moving day and they're coming to get all of our stuff. So we know Buster's going to show up. Yeah. Buster always comes when we don't know what.
Oh, that's the clay model.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, who's Buster? So I totally got thrown there. I'm like, wait a minute.
Probably primed that one a bit better. Right. And so we talk, because then I
actually thought, I'm like, is the mover's name Buster? How did they know that? I'm like, what is going on? Sorry. I'm just still there.
Okay. Buster is what the worry is named.
Thank you. Let's move on.
Okay. It's good. And so then you talk, when we expect it to show up, it's not scary. Yeah. Right? And so and kids have so many of those experiences where whatever their version of Buster is going to show up, right? Like, you have a dance recital tomorrow. Yeah. Do you think Buster is going to show up? Probably. He always comes to dance recitals. Right?
Come on, Mom.
Of course he's going to come, but you know that he doesn't have to dictate how your performance is going to go, right? You know that you can tell Buster just to settle down and get back in your backpack and simmer down over there, right? So kids learn to have power over
language.
It is, right? And it gives them some sense of control and power over their feelings.
Well, and it's funny, even as adults, I mean, that like it's powerful to have language around what is happening, because then you can name it.
Totally.
And that's what you're doing. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, so those are some good, this is great. I'm enjoying this. But I think there's 3 steps that you were talking about for parents that are really, really important for parents to be able to kind of work through themselves and relay to their kids and essentially be aware of, because this is moving can be traumatic, right?
For sure.
I was listening to something else somewhere, and we all have trauma somehow, and it's just something that didn't show up that you expected, and you thought Buster was going to be there or not, or whatever, and it wasn't, or you needed your mom when you came home from school that one day, but she was on the phone for 10 minutes, and and then that just solidified something for you forever.
For sure.
And whatever it is, but I think parents having tools to help kids who are moving is going to be really, really powerful. And so I want to walk through those 3 steps.
Yeah.
And so you said the first one was talking about the move. So I'd love to hear what is the best way for a parent to kind of talk to I almost said a client, parent to talk to a child through a move. How does that look?
And I think it is a bit of like preparing them for the move, whatever that move looks like, right? When we talk about move, it could be just moving house. It could be like moving can look so different for different families. The circumstance of the move also can make it different. So I think it's parents, preparing kids, but then in the same sense, kind of what we've talked about, not over reassuring their kid.
Right.
So not saying like, when kids have questions, what if this, giving them what we think is going to happen, like helping them calm down, right? It's just having those honest conversations about kind of, we're going to be moving and and I'm going to tell you right now, moving is stressful, right? Yeah. Because no matter how old kids are, I think we can, in an age appropriate way, be pretty honest with them.
Yeah.
You're not going to spring it on them, right?
Yeah,
they wake up in the morning, guess what?
Today's the day. It's not Disneyland. We're moving.
We're moving. And so it's important to have those conversations and laying that foundation with kids of saying like, if all your feelings are valid and it's okay. You're going to have mixed feelings about moving. Yeah. There's going to be moments that are going to feel really exciting and you're going to feel great about, and there's going to be moments that you're going to feel nervous and worried and scared and sad. Yeah. And all those feelings are okay. Yeah. And I'm here if you want to talk about those feelings. Yeah. But I believe that you're going to be okay. I think you can handle this, right? It's conveying that confidence to them. Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Like I can just imagine being a kid and hearing that and going, oh, you believe that?
Yeah.
Like that just like, poof, like it puffs you up almost as a child, being like, I love you, I trust you, and you're telling me that? Totally. Okay, let's do this, right?
And you can see how it sounds different to like, I'm going to tell you that it's all going to be okay. And it's going to be this, and this, and it's all going to be okay.
But you're rushing through it. We'll be fine. Let's move on.
Right? Yeah. We're gonna eat at the exact same time tomorrow and the next day, and like, right? You're saying to kids like, you know what? It's moving, and people know moving's bumpy, but we're gonna be okay. Yeah. And we're gonna take it one step at a time.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you, but you should just say that to yourselves.
I do every day. Every day. Yeah.
One of the things that we got from a Brené Brown book is we can do hard things.
Yeah.
And we actually found a plaque, like a thing that goes on the wall that you hang up, and it says, we can do hard things. And
I love it.
Sits right beside our TV. And so we see it all the time. And it's just that type of message that we're in this together with you. We got this. Yep. You got this too. Yeah. Let's make it happen.
And I think when it comes to treating childhood anxiety, those are the foundations, right? Because it's not like there isn't a quick fix. There's lots of great books that I can recommend, but you can't read a book and fix your kids' anxiety. No, it's how you talk in your family and how you talk to your kids.
Making a change.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So that's the first one. Important step for parents is talk to them. Talk about that move and figure it out. Second one is actually for them to do something. So you have some homework and you need to what? Donna, tell us.
Check in on your own stress level.
Amen.
And so that's really not about like checking on your own stress and then like shove it down and don't let your kids see that you're stressed. Don't do that. That's not what we want, right? Because this is the resilience building comes from being able to model healthy coping for your kids. Yeah. So you're going to be stressed when you move, but this is an opportunity for you to, and I often tell parents to talk out loud.
Yeah.
Right. And so saying things like, oh my gosh, this move is stressing me out. I'm going to go and sit here for a few minutes and take some deep breaths. And then I'm going to be okay. Right. So kids get to see like, oh my gosh, my parents get stressed too. And
you could just imagine a kid sitting at the table being like, what's wrong with mom?
What's wrong with mom?
Yeah. Oh, she's doing that now. Oh, that's how she did that. That's how she handled that. Oh, I could do that too.
I could do that too. Yeah.
Like it's amazing how they watch you.
They do. Kids are watching all the time to see creepy. How their parents. It is. Yeah. It is. So it feels like a little bit of pressure, but really it's just like it's not hiding your stress and not being stressed. Yeah. It's just letting your kids see that you can cope in a healthy way.
Totally.
And even just verbalizing some of the stuff around the uncertainty, right? I don't know what it's going to look like when we get to the new house tomorrow. Like, I don't know how long it's going to take us to unpack stuff.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. And not knowing is making me feel a little bit like, I definitely feel unsure about it, and it's stressing me out a bit, but I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So, so first one, talk about the move. Second one, check in on your own stress. And then the third one is actually modeling healthy coping. And so what are some strategies for parents to actually model? I mean, you talked a little bit about that, saying something out loud.
Yeah.
But what are a few other things?
It really comes down to I do some training for parents around supporting and managing childhood anxiety. And that modeling piece really is all about verbalizing your thought processes. And it's obviously age appropriate. Like, you're not going to, if you have some major stress at work, you're not going to like offload that on your kid.
Oh, Barbara.
Right? But, and I even give parents examples sometimes, like, if you're stuck in traffic and you have your kids in the car and you're going to be late for that appointment, it's right. And we've all been there, right?
Man. Yeah, I feel like you're calling me out right here.
Yeah, a little bit. I found out about it.
Yeah, shoot.
It's being able to like say to your kid, like, we're going to be late. I don't like being late. I'm going to take some deep breaths right now. Yeah. I'm going to refocus on my driving, and we're going to get there when we get there, right?
My girls would look at me like, you're doing what?
You're doing what? Why? What would you normally do, Jared?
This is all about you. This is about you right now.
So it's really just, it is that verbalizing for kids. I think the more parents can verbalize that tolerance for uncertainty, that's really important because kids want to know. And we all want to know, right? I think that's why we've all struggled with COVID, because we all want to know when it's going to end. Yeah. We want someone to tell us. Yeah. And I think if you look at the people around you, the people who have maybe, I don't know if any of us have adapted and done well. Yeah. But
I doubt it.
Those of us who've maybe done better, it's because I think we're able to just be like, well, there's so many things we don't know. Yeah. And I don't it's nice to know, but I can take this one day at a time, and I'm going to be okay. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. One thing that I thought of earlier when we were talking, and I want to come back to it because during COVID, there was a lot of restrictions on who could look at houses. And a lot of the restrictions were around no kids. And so I can only imagine, we've helped hundreds of families this last year alone make transitions, and for them moving from one place to another. And so many of them, the kids didn't get to see the house in person potentially until it was moving day. Right. And so moving with kids in the last 16, 18, even 2 years, whenever you're watching this, however long this goes on for, that time period has been really hard for kids, I would assume.
I think so.
Because they can't see the house. And if you have a kid that has that worry, that's really, really hard. And so I don't know if there's anything that you can give advice for if someone can't see the house and the kid's really worried about it. Is there anything that a parent can try to help a kid through that?
Well, I'm guessing like they could take pictures, right, of the house.
Or even FaceTime.
Yeah. And so I think there are ways. Yeah. And I don't know if like a kid not seeing the house necessarily gives them, they would be that little bit of like uncertainty, right? That they wouldn't know. And it would be like moving day would be a total surprise. But we also have to have confidence that that's something that kids can kind of handle. And again, it's those building blocks of resiliency. Because I think of like, even as you were talking, I think of when I moved to Canada, right? Yeah. There was no seeing the house before we got here. Yeah.
So did one of your parents come and find a place?
No.
And then, or you guys just...
Yeah, we had family friends that lived in Vancouver, and they
crazy.
Found a basement suite. And so, it was...
You all moved there.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like, it was definitely... Like, if you... Maybe don't set your kid up like this, but like it's a lot of, if you can imagine the level of uncertainty of like showing up in not just a new house, but new country, new city, new everything, and just being like, got this.
Yeah, and you're like, they all have accents. What's their problem?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
All of it. All of
All
it.
of it.
It's funny because I remember arriving at the airport and it was like 9 p.m. in Vancouver
Yeah.
and walking out and it was light out. And that doesn't happen.
Oh, really?
No, because that was very odd. I didn't know that there were places in the world that the sun was
sun
still
was up
out
still.
at 9 p.m. Weird.
Oh man, that's crazy. Well, I really appreciate you coming. I
Yeah.
think this has been fantastic, and I hope that you out there who are moving and have kids, thank you for sticking around and listening to this for about a half an hour. But I think there are some incredible strategies that you've talked about, ways to talk to your kids, ways for you to cope, and for you to. I really like the verbally talking through your own emotions and where you're at so that your kids can hear and you're modeling that. I think that's really, really important because where else are they going to hear that from? Right.
For sure.
And so, so if anyone that's watching has questions or wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach you, Donna?
Probably just through my website.
Yeah.
There's lots of information on there and they can contact me through that.
Cool. And so that is bloomarttherapy.com.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
You got it.
Okay. Well, that's what we have for today. So hopefully, if you're making a move with kids, that this is going to set you guys up for success. If you have questions or comments, put them in the comment section below wherever you're watching this. And if you need to, reach out to Donna at bloomtherapy.com. And that's what we have. So we're going to sign out and we're going to say goodbye. And we'll see you guys on the next video.